Now, when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all waiting for him. There was a man named Jairus, who was the ruler of the synagogue. And falling at Jesus' feet, he implored him to come to his house, for he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was dying. As Jesus went, people pressed around him. And there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years. And though she had spent all her life living on physicians, she could not be healed by anyone. She came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. And immediately her discharge of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowd surround you and you're pressing in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive the power has gone out from me." And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and, falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While he was still speaking, someone from the ruler's house came and said, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher anymore." But Jesus, on hearing of this, answered him, "Do not fear, only believe, and she will be well." And when he came to the house, he allowed no one to enter with him except Peter and John and James and the father and the mother of the child. And all were weeping and mourning for her. But Jesus said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But taking her by the hand, he called, saying, "Child, arise." And her spirit returned, and she got up at once. And he directed that something should be given her to eat, and her parents were amazed. But he charged them to tell no one what had happened.
As you know, I have to travel a lot. And we're always is a little bit nervous when I have to come here to the States and I have a short layover in an airport. I had to get down in New York, in JFK, and I have only a short layover, so I have to be very quick. And if you are used to travel, there's two kind of people that are in the airports. When they get out of the plane, they are the ones that are really relaxed and walk really slow, and the ones that are walking very fast to go to the police, and I want to take my next plane. And that was my situation on Friday. I was at the airport, and in this quick stopover, I was there, and I was a long line, of course. But I'm thinking, I'm gonna do it. And the minutes pass, and it's gonna be a shorter time. And when it was my turn to get in front of the police guy, I saw someone from the back, from the side, coming with 3 people and put it right in front of me. So 3 people more. I said, oh man, what's bad? It was not bad. I can take my plane. It's not a problem. But I think at that moment, sometimes I think that God works like that situation. Whenever it's my turn, someone more important than me arrives and is served first. That's why my heart thinks that God serves other people who are more important than me first. But that's not the truth. And that's what we see in this passage that was written today. Jesus, he really takes care of us, and he is the hope for the desperate. He's the hope of the desperate. In this chapter of Luke 8:40 to 56, we can see this chapter with a story also in Mark in the chapter 5. And it's a story full of symbolism, natural events, and also a lot of surprises. It's in this story that we can find Jesus being interrupted in several occasions. All the ministry of Jesus is mostly related to interruptions. People that is coming and say something here, and it's like his ministry was always made by interruptions. This is a story that shows us that the reality of pain, illness, death, and everything that this entails. All the elements on this story are amazing. There is need, there is compassion, is disbelief, unexpected events, amazement. A lot of elements that shows the reality of the people, but also the reality when people saw Jesus or when people is in the room. This gospel account shows us the divinity of Jesus being revealed in an astonishing way, and the crowd witnesses all this stuff, all these events. So my first point is that we can always, you and I, we can always access Jesus, no matter what's happening. We always can access Jesus. Jesus was interrupted while he was with the crowd. Jairus, a prominent Jewish leader, kneeled before Jesus. A very powerful people kneel before Jesus, showing a great gesture of humility. He kneeled, and the Father's words, Jairus' words, denote absolute desperation. In verse 41 says, throwing himself at Jesus' feet, he begged him to go to his house because his only daughter, about 12 years old, was dying. His daughter was dying. Imagine that. He knows that his daughter was dying. He knows that. So he approached Jesus and begged him because he believes that he was his last option. He hears about Jesus and I'm going to ask, and he begged. And I love that the verse 42 says in the Spanish version and also in English that Jesus moves in that direction. So the interruption and Jesus moves in that direction was amazing. So they're on their way to see the girl, Jairus' daughter, for the first miracle. Now, this is like a story or a photograph. That's another history in parallel. There's another history also happening at the same moment. And it's this description about the women with the bleeding that has for 12 years. So consider that. That woman is in the crowd, and she has this illness that makes her, that all this illness that makes her unclean, and also this was social, rejected, and isolated, because all the things related with blood are something considered impure. So she was 12 years living like this, like an impure person. 12 years of loneliness, suffering, pain, contempt, anguish, feeling and literally being impure. The illness of this woman, we don't know what it was, but without doubt, made her life miserable. Because people avoid her, because of the ritual contamination. And the end, if we are fair, this woman was dead while she's still alive. She don't have any hope at all. Any hope at all. Until the day when she saw Jesus. She slipped away from the crowd that was following Jesus with only one thought in her mind. The Gospel of Mark and Luke mention this. She says in her mind, if I can just touch his cloak, I will be healed. I will be healed. Although her faith needs physical confirmation to the contact with the cloak, it was nothing less than genuine faith. Even in the midst of her pain and misery, she approached Jesus as the best she could and was able to meet him. Not only touching his cloak, but gaining full access to the Son of God. She approaches and was able to find Jesus. And like her, you and I can have access to Jesus today. No matter what is our situation today, you and I can really have access to the Son of God. Second point, we need to recognize my greatest need, and that's my greatest contribution. I have a greatest need, and that's my greatest contribution to this situation. In both stories, they're about Jairus' daughter and the women with the bleeding. There are common stuff, are common things or elements. In both stories, than the woman and Jairus' situation, they have an intense need. An intense need. It's not a little need. It's not something, okay, I don't have butter for my breakfast. No. Intense need. Something intense that is really life or death. Intense need. For both, for Jairus and the woman, Jesus was their last option. Their last option. Who else could heal death? Or who else could cure something that doctors cannot? In fact, Mark and Luke mentioned that she had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors. And she had spent all that she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She has suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors. She has spent everything. And that had done her no good. Instead of getting better, she was getting worse. And I like this part of this passage. When she took the cloak, and Jesus felt that and asked, who touched me? And again, and no one says nothing. Who touched me? Who touched me? No one admit that. Almost with fear, people say, no, I don't touch you. What are you saying? You're surrounded by people. But Jesus keep asking. They don't want to admit. She doesn't want to admit it. Like a children who don't want to admit something because she was afraid of being punished. I think that. But it's interesting and vital to recognize that in this passage, which tells us that Jesus realized that power has gone out of him, is a perfect reflection of the fact that Jesus clearly knows our needs and that they don't go unnoticed for him or by him. It's almost like if Jesus is saying, who touched me? Who touched me? And Jesus is almost saying, don't leave this place as someone who feels that has stolen something. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Don't feel that you have something that is not yours, that you steal something. That's the reason that he approached her and said, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. He did not want to search the crowd for the person responsible for the power loss. He wants to go there to want to tell her with his own lips the depth of his love for her. That he knew her need and that her faith in him had healed her. Her need had not gone unnoticed. And also, your need too. My need too. So kind to see this affectionately language of Jesus saying, daughter. Speaking as a father to a daughter. Your faith has healed, and the Greek word for that means saved. Your faith has saved you. Therefore, we have the physical healing as well as a spiritual salvation. So, go in peace. Through these encouraging words, Jesus also opened the door for the total restoration of the woman in the religion and social life of these people. So, from that moment, she recovered full life. Not only a partial life, she has full life because she was not more sick. and she can present to everyone, I'm free, I'm healed. She was redeemed by this relationship with Christ. So recognizing my need is my greatest contribution. We can recognize our greatest need also. And lastly, the third point, Christ comes to rescue us with great power. And he still does that today. This passage shows an amazing amount of power. Jesus has healed a woman who had bleeding for 12 years, something incredible, and was huge. And at that moment, Jesus was interrupted again. Again. In the verse 49 says, describes the scene saying to Jairus, your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. So we are celebrating, this woman is healed. But an interruption, and you know what? Jairus, your daughter is dead. It's like, okay, I'm almost approaching Jesus. I'm going to make it. And a full plane comes right in front of you. She's dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. The reality of death becomes present for Jairus, his family, and those who were watching and waiting for the girl and her family. Death becomes present at that situation. But you know what? Jesus has still much more power even to raise Jairus' daughter from the dead. So the interruption came with the reality of death, and Jesus says, we are going to go. Christ's power is unlimited, so he's not like a genie in a bottle who grants only 3 wishes. No, he's real. And his power, mercy, and love are infinite and always available to you and me. Have you ever thought that Jesus is on his way to meet the needs for other people than yours? People that you think, of course, Jesus is getting or is doing something with other people because other people is more important than mine. Their needs are more important than my needs. And I'm pretty sure that you think like that because I'm like yours. I'm like you. I really believe sometimes Jesus is really occupied with major stuff. So my email was in his inbox for years. So what are you going to do with this? But Jesus has another opinion on this. How interesting is to see that Jesus says to Jairus, don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed. And when they are walking to the house, they realize that it looks like it's very bad. It's true, she's dead. In the house, or at the house, everyone was crying. A lot of distress over the girl who was literally dead. Literally. In this heartbreaking scene that Jesus tells them and gives in this order, stop crying. She's not dead, but asleep. And the verse 53 tells us that they began to mock him because they knew that she was really dead. But he took her by the hand and said to her, little girl, get up. Talitha Kumi. She came back to life and got up immediately. Jesus told her to give her something to eat, and it was an amazing story of healing and power. It's amazing. All of these scenarios, situations, and all this power of Jesus. And this brings me to thinking a couple of applications. The first one, I feel so much identified with the crowd, for example, or the people at the house, asking, why Jesus are you asking this? You are surrounded by so many people. Of course someone touched you, but we don't know who it is. Or mocking about the idea of, Jesus, you can't do anything about this. The reality is too heavy for us. But you know what? What I like about this passage in Luke 8, and the whole passage from the beginning, Luke 8, it shows the full progression and power of Jesus as the Son of God. In the first verse of Luke 8, we have the story of a guy who was released from demons, you know? Jesus showed amazing power, liberating a guy from demons, possession. So Jesus has this, he shows this power, demonstrating his power over creation and demons on the spiritual sphere. And now by healing the woman with the bleeding, he's demonstrating his total power over disease. And also at the end, and that will be okay, magnificent, but he has enough power also to go to the last part to say, you know what, I'm gonna resurrect someone that is dead, so proving his total power as the Son of God. So, a full power over the creation, nature, demons, illness, and death. Complete power, absolute power. And that power is available for us by grace. By grace. So, what Jesus was doing was a demonstration of power to show us the real problem that we have in our lives, that we don't believe him, that we don't trust him, that we are sinners, and we don't have real doubts, even today as Christians. There is an abysmal distance between God and us. We don't believe him. For this reason, Jesus is telling us that he has sufficient power, that all things are under his control, including creation, demons, sickness, and death. Absolute power, real hope, because we have a real Savior. So what we are seeing in these verses is a good manifestation of absolute power of God, who comes to visit us and tells us, I have absolute power, all creation obeys me, demons bow down before me, sickness is eliminated, and the power of death is taken away. But for this to happen, and for you and me to have access to this relationship with God, the same Jesus, the Son of God, crossed the whole universe to came here to earth, suffered and endured on the cross, and on his sacrificial death, the torment of demons, the pain of creation, the savage reality of pain, to finally experience total death, so that you and I, because of his grace today, can access the benefits of his kingdom. And not only his kingdom here on earth, but an eternity to be with him, to enjoy and to be moved by his eternal love. So brothers and sisters in his side, if the story, if Jesus is real, if he is the Son of God, if he crossed the whole universe to give us life, to have a death for the guilty instead of us, he lived a perfect life for us. And he resurrected at the third day. If that's real, we can tolerate anything in this world. We can even deal with pain with suffering, with illness, with death. But one day, that's going to end. Life is not the here and now. It's the here and the future. And our future is secure if you have a relationship with God, with Jesus. So the question is, do you have enough faith in Him to go with your needs to Jesus? What situation in your life makes you feel miserable? Like the woman with the hemorrhage, with the bleeding? Or what in your life looks like a Jairus situation? Their life situation, desperation. Perhaps it's an illness or a broken marriage or a deep anguish or a not finding meaning in your life. You may be like me in either situation. Both situations are real and tangible. But for both situations, there is enough power in Christ to deal with that situation. But also, there is enough power from God to deal with your situation. God has total power to bring you hope today. Today. He's not a God who has only 3 wishes for you. He has a life for you. A life that can prove that He was right. A life that we can assure that He's going to be with us, that we are saved. He's telling us that He's the owner of all things, that we can trust Him. He has given enough proof that anyone can come to Him with their needs, no matter what they are. Recognize that Jesus is the only option for your life is the best stuff. Even if you have several years at the church, and you say, okay, but I have so many years at the church. That's like a prayer for someone that's really new. Yeah, we have that kind of need. We have that kind of need. Recognizing that Jesus is the only option for the new believer and also for the one that has more years in the faith. Jesus still is the only option for the Christian and for us. It's the only hope for His side. And it's the only hope for Greenville and for America and for all our world. How incredible is the decision that we have to make before Jesus. He tells us that He's the Son of God, nothing less. He doesn't tell us that He's a prophet or an enlightened one. His declaration is, I'm the Son of God. So we have to have an answer for that question. If so, what are you going to do with this situation in your life? Is God, is Jesus enough for your life today? It has all the power for your need today? Is this reality that is really making you feel very overwhelmed? Is Jesus enough for you and me? I love to, a couple of years ago, I was seeing the memorial of a friend of mine called Jay Carr that works with us in City to City a couple of years ago. And at the end, Tim Keller says this phrase that I love, says, about this memorial, related to the reality of death. Tim Keller says, one day, sooner rather than later, death will die also. One day, death will die. If that's true, if one day death will die, brothers and sisters, we have complete hope. Even to last the years that God provides us in this side of the creation. We have complete hope to live because the Son of God has loved us and given us the ultimate solution, himself, for our needs. And he is with us today. Death will not have the last word. Your situation will not have the last word. Ultimately, death will not triumph. Life will triumph. Grace will triumph. Christ triumphed on the cross. And now, and for that reason, we can trust him because he is our victorious King. For that reason, and many others, Jesus is the hope for the desperate like us. Let's pray.